Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Outreach Project podcast. That's right, episode 3. Josh, we have tripped the line, man. I don't know if this is momentum picking up, but I feel like a lot of things are starting to fall towards the podcast. We got a lot of good feedback, a lot of good comments. But what have you heard as far as the podcast episodes 1 and 2?
Some good feedback. I think the coolest thing that came out of the first upload so far is literally the first one led into episode 3. And somebody reached out, saw it, loved what we were doing, connected with some people that I knew before, and reached out and said, I would love to be on your podcast. I knew nothing about the organization we had on. So the Warriors Refuge was episode 3. And we had not connected before that. And Ariel came on and total rock star. Very, very good at what she does, and proud of her organization and what they're doing. And no, I just think it's awesome. So even the corrections, or the not corrections necessarily, but the improvements that we got, along with the good feedback, that's going to do nothing but help us. The only place to go from here is up. So, I mean, we're ready to go.
Yeah, we talked about leading into episode 3. Let's jump back to episode 1. Feedback from the guest, Sean, that time. Once we published, what did he respond with?
Some awesome feedback. So, from Hometown Hero Outdoors, they said their uptick in signups for their organization through emails were popping off with episode 1. So it's cool to see people watching the episode, watching the clips, watching our little snippets before and after the upload, and then taking that information and going and check it out for yourself. That's why we're doing what we're doing, to give you the face value of the people that are in the organization, asking them the hard questions so you don't have to, and then you can either, take it or leave it. You can either go use the resource and find out for yourself, or, you don't have to. But it's cool to see that people are taking those resources and run with it and signing up and getting involved.
And now paying attention to the podcast. Now, we say we got good comments, but we've got one special person that reached out to us just because. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I met a guy earlier this year on a trip, and just a super supportive individual, prior business owner, Eric, a buddy of mine. And man, he reached out and sent us a donation to the Outreach Project specifically, which covered our, basically our startup costs for the headsets, the mics, the cameras, all that stuff. And we couldn't be more thankful. We're haven't even put the feelers out for sponsors and stuff yet, which we will down the road. But to see people that are that in tune with and that supportive of what we're doing, and the good feedback of like, nobody's really hit this nail yet. This is something that's not really being touched on yet, crossing all these organizations, and then, helping collaborate the organizations. What we're coming to find out right now is, the collaboration piece is bigger than we thought. And a lot of them want to collaborate, whereas I didn't really think that a lot of them would, because they're competing for funding. But the support is awesome. Again, shout out to Eric for supporting us and what we're doing, and really being our first sponsor that's, helping push this thing forward, even in our editing software and stuff like that. All the stuff we're just doing this out of the goodness of our hearts. Really, this isn't our job. So to have somebody come in like that and really just doing angel stuff, so I appreciate it. So
yeah, as far as administrative things, man, I mean, we've kind of covered it. I want to let everybody know that, obviously, stepping into the podcast, what we're going to cover today, we got Miss Ariel from Warrior Refuge. We're going to cover things like VA benefits. We're going to cover things like job and employment opportunities, support from cradle to grave, literally we're talking about a 9-month program. So the Warrior Refuge program, huge lift logistically, and from the aspect of like support. These guys came from 4 founding members, and they've got upwards of 30 something people working on staff right now. But yeah, let's get right to it. We're going to kick off with a video from Warrior Refuge.
Boots by the doorway, dog tags in a drawer, mail piled on the counter, can't carry it anymore. Cold nights in a truck cab, memories in a rear view glass. pass. Every exit sign looks tempting, but the years feel heavy stacked. Then a small sign by the highway, faded paint, but it shines. Coming from the battle, you don't fight this time. Warriors refuge, where the weary lay it down, where the battle scarred and broken, learn the strength in being found.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Outreach Project podcast. Joined in the studio with my co-host Hodge, and today we're lucky enough to have the Warriors Refuge. We have Ariel joining us in the studio as well, going over a whole new topic to you guys. So what you got, Hodge?
Nothing. I'm excited. Cliff notes. Obviously, we made sure we were educated on it, and I could not be more excited. We want to show everyone we're not just the one-trick pony of the outdoors stuff. And jumping into your nonprofit, Feet First, is something that I think everyone is going to be excited to hear, especially for people who want to get involved in the local community and things like that, that maybe don't have the outdoor flavor. This is something that is very unique, especially in the nonprofit space.
Thank you guys for having me.
Without further ado, if you want to tell the world kind of who you are and what you do, and we'll kind of go from there.
Absolutely. Again, I really appreciate y'all having me on. My name is Ariel Lara. I am a founding member of the Warriors Refuge in West Columbia. We are a nonprofit that focuses on so much. We're trying to encompass the entire veteran. We are a transitional housing, education and employment, counseling, peer support, case management, kind of all of the above. And so I'm really excited to share with you guys what we do out there in West Columbia.
Awesome. That's a lot to digest and a lot of information in a very short period. So we'll kind of break it down a little bit. I know you said you've been around for a few years. How long have you guys been an actual organization?
So we hit our 6-year anniversary in June of this year, and we hit our 1-year anniversary of our second location in Alvin, Texas, in July of this year.
Okay. So pretty much concentrated in Texas currently.
Yes.
And then I think I saw on the website, Hodge, you mentioned that you guys are talking about possibly going nationwide. Is that still a goal for the future? Or are you guys sticking with Texas?
That is very much a goal. So we do service veterans from all over the United States. We've had veterans come to us from New York, from Florida. Every state in between. But our actual locations are in Texas. And so we are looking at opening a third location, which will be in Fort Bend County, which is still Texas, hopefully at the end of the first quarter of 2026. And we're just still pushing to grow. Even outside of that, there's been another nonprofit that we've been able to mentor that's in North Carolina, and they're looking to build a similar program. So, we're just kind of on the move on that side.
Okay. And the main thing that I see in between the videos and the website is battling homelessness on a large scale. That's the basis of what you guys do, correct?
Yes, that's kind of where the vision started.
Okay. And when I was thinking about this, like I was telling you guys earlier, I went out hunting earlier, and I had some time to kind of think on this. And, I did over 20 years, Hodge did over 20 years in the military. And I know what people will kind of think when they tune into this. Maybe it doesn't affect them. They don't know anyone that's homeless, whatever. But if you are in the military or around veterans long enough, you'll learn that things aren't always, sunshine and rainbows, and bad stuff can happen. People go through hard times. They go through real hard times. I went through, got some trouble a couple years ago and found myself in hard times. Obviously wasn't homeless, but people go through stuff, and to, put that out there to the world, like it's okay to go through stuff, and there's resources to do that. Although you guys are focused in Texas right now, I know you guys have a vision to go nationwide, and a lot of people have these kind of resources in their state, and they don't really know about it. So the cool part to me is bringing those, things to light, and then, showing people, hey, like you have an option in your state, most likely. Now, for your guys' care, do people need to be a resident of Texas to take advantage of the resources? No.
No, you need a DD 214, and if you're not in Texas, we'll get you a bus ticket.
Okay. And how do people mainly get in touch with you for your organization as a whole? Do you have, places that reach out to you like shelter kind of things, or do you guys kind of search people out? How does that work?
Um, so basically where we're at now, and I know I shared with you in the very beginning stages, the first few months of our organization, I used to go pick up guys off the side of the road, men and women. We house both male and females. And we'd bring them back to the refuge and, we'd kind of get them vetted. And by the grace of God, I'd drive into Houston and pick up veterans off the side of the road, and things went well. We are now, we have a grant through the VA. So we also have like TVC grants and things like that, which allows most of our referrals to come from the VA. And so whenever veterans are seeking care and things like that, and they're not getting the care support that they want from the VA, we all know how that can go. They're able to reach out to a resource like us and say, hey, the VA mentioned y'all, can we go ahead and, see if this is a good fit for us? And so it's a really great partnership that we have because we are not the VA. And I love saying that as much as, we appreciate our partnership. If you're a veteran, you understand there's nothing like getting quality care outside of having to go into Houston or into whichever city is closest to you. But that's where a majority of our referrals come from. We do have multiple partnerships with other nonprofits like United Way and things like that, who, when they're coming across people who need veteran resources, those dollars that we get are specific to veterans. And so we're able to partner so that they can save their dollars for, someone who's not military, and we're able to get them in and get them the support that they need.
Okay.
Ma'am, from the mission that you guys have, and I know that everything aligns with that mission statement. What drew you to this? You said you were a founding member of it. Like, what happened in your life? What impacted you to want to step up into this?
I love that because I don't really typically answer that question. But I was homeless when I was growing up. I became homeless at the age of 14. I had no family. I became emancipated just before I turned 17. And I found myself in a lot of trouble. So I went to the boot camp here in Angleton. It's our juvenile justice alternative education. And the man who ran it was, at that point, he was in the reserve. He was a captain. And he ran boot camp just like basic. And I had no idea at the time, but there was such a draw that I found to the structure and the organization and, I mean, all of the leadership qualities that it taught me while I was there. And that's what ultimately made me want to join the Army as well. But I realized, like, I could build my own family. I didn't need anyone that was related by blood or whatever the case might be. And people need support, and you don't always have that in your everyday life. And so especially being young and realizing that, and then going through basic, realizing that there were a lot of people who were coming straight out of high school who had never even had a job before then, going straight from mom and dad into the military and being told what to do on a different level, and then seeing people exiting the military. And they were all of a sudden just, you cut that cord and that's it. What do? You now are not being told what to do every day, how to dress. You're not getting that check regularly. And so there are a lot of struggles that happen with that. And so when I met one of my co-founders, he was in the Navy and he had some struggles and things like that as well. And we both just agreed that we weren't happy with what we were seeing. There were a lot of Band-Aid organizations and things like that. And the hurts that we were bringing to the table is what built our mission. It's what built what we wanted to see. And when you don't see what you want, you just kind of get up and get it done yourself.
Yeah, see, I don't think that's it. I think a lot of people like you that make that stuff happen is the ones that we want to make sure that we're connecting with. Because, like you said, there's a lot of people out there that they want to do stuff or they say they can do stuff, but they never follow through with it. And I think making sure that
Yeah.
organizations like your organization gets the spotlight that it needs and it deserves, then hopefully we can continue to funnel some of those resources to your nonprofit to make sure that that mission statement continues to run smoothly. You mentioned you joining the Army. What was, so you go through this boot camp and it basically sets a structure for you. What does that look like moving forward when you go to the Army?
So for me, I mean, it just instilled something in me. I was like, man, like I want this, you know? And so that captain at the time had actually left and went back active duty. And I was like, just even more in awe of his commitment and the way he led because, you know, he was doing such a great job out here, but it was just a calling that he had. He was ready to go back, and we stay connected. He's still in the area. He's in Pearland, um, and he's still a really great mentor. Um, and so I did not join the Army immediately after. So I had, you know, plenty of legal troubles as a teenager, things like that. And so after becoming emancipated, I tried to join and they said no. And they said no. And for a third time, they said no when I was 19. And I had kind of given up at the time. So I'm like pretty heavily tattooed, and that was holding me back quite a bit. Um, and so I just kind of moved on with life. I got married. I had 3 kids. And I think it was at the end of 2016, the beginning of 2017, my husband actually sent me a link where the Army had like loosened the rules a little and you could now have tattoos past your elbow. Um, and he sent it to me as a joke because he knew, you know, that was something I had wanted when I was younger. And I was like, well, actually, what if
Joke's on you.
Not a
yeah,
joke.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like, what if I dive into this a little bit more? And so that's exactly what happened. So I joined. I was only able to join the reserve because I was still a married mom of 3. But I love my time more than anything. As soon as I saw that, it kind of just reignited one of those little pieces in me of when you have a call to service and things like that, there's no getting rid of it. And so, you know, kind of like you said, joke was on him. I went into the recruiting office that had denied me 3 other times already. And I got signed up. So
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Josh, before I kick it back off to Josh, I just want to say, like, when you say that family aspect of, you know, your friends and stuff, like, you don't get to pick your family. That's just who they are. But who you
Yeah.
choose to surround yourself with, that can also be something that is considered family. And I think that speaks
Absolutely.
volumes to people that pick the right people, that mentor them and show them the right way. But Josh, what do you got?
No, I mean, I didn't actually know. So are you still in the reserves? Or are you done with it? Or
I'm done now.
oh, okay,
Yes.
nice. You
Yes.
enjoyed it though, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was it,
Absolutely.
what was the MOS?
I was a 12 Bravo. I was a combat engineer.
Okay.
Nice.
There we go.
Yeah, when you mentioned the family part, we had kind of talked. Hodge and I had talked about it before too. Is like one of the things that I try and tell people about the whole nonprofit space is the network piece and the family that you can build and the support system that you can basically develop just by making the contacts and like kind of putting yourself out there a little bit, getting involved. Whether you're, you know, signing up for an organization, going through a program, or helping with a program, volunteering for a program, things like that. So, I mean, that's really awesome to hear. And I watched, is it Earl Willis's story that you sent? Pretty powerful stuff. Not unlike a lot of the stories that most of us have heard going through the military, especially if you've been around a while. And when I said, you know, like the part about people thinking like, oh, I'm not homeless, it's not going to happen to me. Well, people get divorced and somebody keeps the kids and they keep the home, and all of a sudden the other person's out, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, bad stuff happens, and a lot of that stuff I think happens faster and more often than we really kind of think, especially when life's going good and everything's great. But one of the things that he had mentioned was he had wished that he had gotten help before um, things went south. And I had this conversation with a guy last week about the resources themselves. And I was like, you might not need it, but if you don't know about it, none of your guys know, none of your team knows about it, none of your people know about it. So like us as a leader, especially if you were in the military for a while, um, if you're gonna know about something and not go back and share that with your team, that's just a huge foul. So yeah, I appreciate the fact that um yeah, you guys developed that web. And I know you'd said that you picked him up um when he went through it. But is there another story? Is there a story that you wouldn't mind sharing of somebody that's kind of gone through the program? Um, one that might have impacted you a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. So Earl is the one I always share, and there's so much more to that story with Earl Willis, if I can, for just a minute.
Hmm.
So we grew up around each other. He was friends with some of my older cousins and things like that. He served 9 years in the Marine Corps, and when I gave him a call, I was giving him a call to remind him that he was going to play in a golf tournament underneath the Warriors Refuge. He was going to be partnered with my husband and a couple of other volunteers that we had. And I gave him a call because he had been volunteering with the Warriors Refuge for a little while, 2 or 3 months. And that story is just so impactful because this was somebody I knew. I knew him when I was younger. Um, he was volunteering for us. Things seemed to be just absolutely be going in his favor. And I tell people constantly that there is no right or wrong way to be homeless. Couch surfing is homeless. Not having, any sort of support system or living in your car, hotel, whatever the case might be. I tell people too, like, you can be paying for a hotel room and have enough money to do that, but you are still homeless. Like, that is not a permanent residence. So absolutely, there's no right or wrong way to be homeless. And so to call Earl that day, and he was like, "Hey, I can't play on Friday." He's like, he had just gone through just a huge shakeup. And I share all of this because his testimony is out there and he's a huge advocate for us. But he had gotten really, really intoxicated one night, blacked out, and woke up to having a handful of people at a party um, that things just went really, really south, including his girlfriend at the time, and was arrested. And he's like, I don't know what to do. It was really humbling for me in that moment because here I was like, I'm going to dedicate my life to the refuge now. Like, we're getting started. Like, this is what I want to do. And to have him right under my nose was, it pulled everything out from under me. I'm like, okay, I'm focused on the wrong thing. Like, I'm getting phone calls about guys underneath the bridge when I have somebody who's right here, who's my neighbor, who, you know, looks like they're doing well on the outside, who's going through it. And so to have seen him take that hit and take that fall, and that's all it took. It was that one arrest. That's all it took for all of the cards that were barely standing to just totally come tumbling down. You know, there was so much there. And so telling him, come to the refuge. Like, you've been volunteering, but you can live here. Like, come join us. And trying to convince a Marine to take help and let me come pick you up and let me do all these things is really difficult. But he agreed. And that was on a Thursday. I was supposed to play in that golf tournament on that Friday. He agreed. He's like, let me have the weekend. I have my kids right now. He had a son and a daughter. And I was like, okay. He's like, I'm going to be at my sister's. Let me just hang out with the kids. You can come get me on Monday. Of course. Of course. I've got littles too. I would want, a weekend before going into a program like this. And what the rest of that video shows is that that Sunday night, he was dangerously close to taking his own life. And he is looking over at his kids who are asleep. They're on a pallet at his sister's. He's got nowhere else to go. And the way that he talks about being in those, gosh, in those darkest moments that he's experienced, even though he had been in the Marines for 9 years, he has been overseas, all of it, just being in that moment and staring at his kids. And his little girl wakes up and looks at him and sees that he's crying and sees that he's upset. And the way he describes the hug that she gave him and the way that he describes just embracing her and realizing and knowing that he, his life cord was pulled, like he was saved, his parachute went off, and him realizing, like, okay, I do have something to live for. I do need to do this. And me getting there on Monday, I didn't even realize like how far down the rabbit hole he was. And so his story, for him to have come back, he was on our board of directors for a while. He's a business owner. He constantly volunteers at the Refuge now. His wife had just finished 3 years of working with us. She's in case management now. They have 2 kids together now also. And so being able to see a story kind of come full circle around like that, and I mean, it's just incredible. I can tell you how wonderful the Refuge is all day long, but when we had like our employee Christmas party a couple weeks ago, and I see their youngest, their little girl, I mean, she's, I want to say maybe 9 months, and just seeing her big blue eyes be so happy and joyful, I'm like, man, it, there's nothing like that feeling. There's nothing like knowing all the late nights, all the bullshit, whatever you go through, like, even if we were just to help one veteran, I mean, it makes it worth it.
Well, you talked about telling us about the program. Like, I mean, tell us, like, how many people do you employ? Like, you talk about all these connections you have. You're obviously very passionate about your coworkers, about your families there, but what is
Yeah.
it that drives Warriors Refuge? How many people? Like, how what are we talking about here? Because
Oh,
I mean, it's important
absolutely.
for a lot of people to know this, because I think they
Yes.
think that this is like a nonprofit that's huge and has all these thousands of people supporting you.
Oh, yeah. No, we are a mom and pop for sure. So we remodeled a former nursing home. And when I say we remodeled, we remodeled. And so I got emotional just a week ago because we put new tile down. And when we were getting started, I had this joke about 50 Shades of Grey because we had paint donations come in, and that's how we painted the hallways to begin with. And they were all sorts of like god awful shades of like grays and blues and whatever. um, but we remodeled that nursing home. And so at the Warriors Refuge, we can house up to 74 veterans at one time. When we got started, there were 4 of us, and we now have 34 employees. I am just the board secretary currently. I do all of our community relations and volunteer community relations and things like that. But one of the big pieces that I love to highlight is that all 34 employees are grant funded. So any donations, any monetary donations, every single dollar goes back into the programs or to the facilities, to making sure, we don't get those horrible shades of gray back in the building. So I love being able to highlight that. And we're 24/7. And so we have an intake specialist that is typically the first person that the veteran talks to. So if the VA refers them and things like that, her name is Miss Ricky. She's been there for a little over 4 years in that position. Um, she's our filter. She's our gatekeeper. She's like, okay, what do you need? What do you have going on? She verifies all the information that we need verified and things like that. The only thing that will not allow you to come to the Warriors Refuge is if you are on a registry, such as a sex offender. Outside of that, come on, we're up for it. We'll take it. We can handle it. And so outside of that, They come in through her. She does an incredible job of pairing them with a case manager. And we have 4 different case managers on the clinical side, and they go through a lot. So she kind of, does her matchmaking and things like that, and that case manager will be with them their entire stay. The veterans are with us an average of 6 to 9 months. And I know sometimes it seems like a lot, but we are not a Band-Aid. And that is the one thing, if you want to ruffle my feathers, we are not a Band-Aid. You are going to come with us. You are going to get counseling. You're going to go through any education and employment opportunities. If you're pre 9/11, then we're typically looking at benefits or Social Security, things like that. If you're post, have you ever used any of your educational benefits? I mean, we buy work boots if that's what you're needing. I mean, down to details like that. Um, in between, you're going to get financial classes, leadership assessments, different things like that. So we try to break it down between the housing, education and employment, and then the counseling. And counseling is everything from drug and alcohol rehabilitation, PTSD, everything in between. And all of that is at no cost to the veteran. All of the counseling services that we offer, they are available to to the spouse and to any children under 18 as well. We're not a faith-based organization, but we are faith-filled. And I have to throw that disclaimer in there because the beautiful VA does not allow me to say otherwise. But we believe in the family, and so that's why we want to make sure that our services are open to the spouse and to any children. And it truly does take everyone to get to the other side. It's not just the veteran, but you know our spouses, go through a lot, the kids go through a lot. And so making sure that we can cover as much as we can there is just, it's huge. And so, like I said, all of our staff members are paid through grants. The good Lord, I mean, I wrote a lot of those grants back in the day. I don't know why he gave me a talent for that, but I'm incredibly grateful for it. But right now we have a really great grant writer. Her name is Sarah Williams, and she's been with us. She started off in the education and employment side. And my number one is our kitchen director, Pat. Like, I have to shout her out because food is its own therapy, in my opinion.
100%.
I mean, yeah, and she
I'm
feeds
big
me
on
when I
food
go up
therapy.
there. When we have meetings, we have everything. I mean, I go through that kitchen, and she's just incredible, incredible. So right now we have 67 veterans that are with us, and she feeds them 3 meals a day. Does birthday cakes. We have a lot of great partners that come in and support us. We have like a local VFW that comes in a lot and volunteers in the kitchen. But I tell you what, not one veteran that I can think of has not gained weight while they're in our program. And
Yes.
that's like another disclaimer that we have to say, like, you might gain a little weight, like, we're going to take care of you. And that at the end of the day, we are Texas. We're Southern. We're going to feed you no matter what. Like, you're going to get taken care of. And so when some of our veterans even find jobs and employment and things like that, I mean, Miss Pat has a little fridge where she'll put breakfast in there and she'll put lunches. So if you're going to work, you better come grab a lunch because Miss Pat will get on to you if you're not having lunch, and she doesn't want you wasting money on buying fast food and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think the kitchen, I need to start adding that into the mix of like, its own form of therapy.
I mean, you're feeding the soul. You're not really trying to do CrossFit. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Man, that's a lot. So is this for myself, I guess one question I have, it sounds inpatient. Is this an inpatient program? So like when people check in, you say 6 to 9 months, they're not like going there for the day, leaving, going to work or whatever, and then how does that work?
So it's a mix of both. So I don't know if I mentioned, but we do house both male and female residents. And when I say it's a little bit of both, so you can come to us and join our program and be there 6 to 9 months. That is the kind of inpatient side. Now, you're not forced to be there. You can come and go. You're free to walk out whenever you want to. Of course, we don't recommend that, but especially the counseling, we do a lot of virtual counseling, and the education and employment side. The counseling and education and employment are open to any veteran, period. And so that's where we get into, like, the telemedicine, the virtual calls, and things like that for counseling. And then, of course, we have our second location in Alvin, where we do everything there outside of the housing. Um, until we find another, nursing home or hotel or something that we can remodel. That's what we're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, and you mentioned with the Earl Willis story, being there for him, and when you were talking about it, I know Hodge and I both, in the veteran suicide aspect, super near and dear to us. It's all too common. I can count
Yeah.
on more than both hands, situations or people that I know have committed suicide or have been on the verge of suicide. And what I like to tell people, it kind of sounds like a Second Amendment kind of a saying, but it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So to have something like this in your toolkit, I had a guy reach out to me probably 2 years ago now, and it was a guy I just met in a bar. I was sitting there, he's another veteran. We just, BS and sit at the bar. And I was talking about resources and different things like that. And I left. I only literally talked to him for like 5 minutes. He added me on Facebook. And then probably like 5 months later, he hit me up and says, "Can I call you?" And I didn't even have his number. Like we weren't that close at all. He just had me on Facebook. So I was like, "Yeah, sure. What's going on?" And he calls me and he's like crying. And he's like, "I'm in a dark place." Um, and I was like trying to rack my brain of like, what could I do? I was like, at the time, I didn't have as many resources. I knew of a few. So I was like, "Hey, can I, try and get you out into the world a little bit, or like, what are you looking for?" And he's like, I don't need to go camping. I need help."
Yeah.
And he had said he'd already been through a rehab program. And he mentioned the one that I knew of. So I actually reached back out to them and talked to him, kind of off the record. And I was like, "Hey, would you mind just doing a check-in with this guy?" And they were able to reach back out, pull him back into an inpatient program. Um, but to have a resource like you, and, thank you for everything you do and just being there for, fellow veterans when the time comes, because it could happen any day. Like, no matter, I don't know who has or hasn't had this conversation, but I've had people that I know really well that have ran straight into gunfire that are quick to make a really bad decision, and when they're in a dark place. And it doesn't matter who you are, it can affect absolutely anyone. But having those people and those resources on speed dial, and you're in the back of your mind, like, I have something I can do now, no matter where I live. So like
Yeah.
nationwide, like if I got a hold of you and your organization at the Warriors Refuge, we can talk, we can work something out, whether we got to find funding or whatever the case may be. But at least you have something, you know what I mean, rather than nothing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
think
mean
I
that's
think it's more of like you're like more of a state based, but recognizing a national need. That's the way I would think about it, especially if you're just, as long as you're not on one of the bad lists and you got a DD 214, we're going to take care of you. I mean, just because you're headquartered in Texas, you can take anyone. And that speaks, like, that's what Josh is saying. If anyone's on the other end of this camera thinking about putting something in their toolkit, like, that's probably what you need to throw in there, is the idea that, yeah, they all have to take a bus down to Texas, but they're going to get the care that they would get in any other state. But luckily we have Ariel and Warriors Refuge. They're going to take care of them inpatient, if required, in 6 to 9 months. When we
Yeah.
think about the overall mission statement, though, Miss Ariel, what is the overall success rate? Like, do you guys pull X amount of number in, and then like some of them graduate? What is graduate? I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but
Yeah. No, absolutely.
what does the finish look like? Do y'all throw like a nice party for them? Like, I'm super stoked about how the finish would look.
Absolutely. So we have our technical ways of measuring success. Of course, when a veteran enters into the workforce, they find permanent housing, they're in an apartment where they can support themselves and things like that. And we do have essentially like an alumni program where they do follow them for a minimum of 6 months. We have never, I think, lost touch with any of them. Most of the people, do continue to keep in contact, especially social media and things like that. That is our success rate. And we are at a 76% success rate right now, which I'm over the moon about that, because you can only lead a horse to water. And so there are times where a veteran might get through to the program and realize, I'm not ready yet. This is not for me. If they cannot find the permanent housing, things like that. But anything over 70% in the nonprofit world, I think is incredible. And so it's essentially even higher than that on just the education and employment side. Our director of the education and employment side, his name is Robert. And he started off as a resident, and now he's on the director level, which is just underneath our executive director. Those are our personal success rates and things like that. So we've had several of the veteran residents that have come through and have gotten peer certifications, peer support certifications. Like I said, our education and employment director used to be a resident. So who better to listen to than a veteran who has lived through all of it? Hey, I came here, I worked my butt off. He started off in maintenance, working for us. I think he did kind of like our overnight tech for a little bit. Worked himself through the maintenance. He was a maintenance director for a while, and then moved into the education and employment side of it. And that for me is a huge success rate. Seeing men like Earl Willis, with the brand new baby, his wife, his family, having them back, that for me is a huge success. And I can't tell you how many times we've had that. And there are super humbling moments that go on in between there, just with the connections that are made. At the end of the year in December, we do an employee of the year, but we also do a resident nominated employee of the year. And those are typically your floor techs who are there at 2:00 in the morning having those conversations. It's, your kitchen staff and things like that. Those more like not so recognizable and typically highlighted be like your counselors and stuff like that. And so I love that they get that opportunity there themselves. And whenever we talk about like volunteers and stuff like that, like that's the number one thing is I tell people, come take a tour, because when you walk those halls, it's a different experience. And just hang out with them. I mean, I think I'm hilarious and all that good stuff, but they get tired of me too. And so they love when they have somebody new that comes and walks and hangs out. I'm not allowed in the garden. We have a garden, but we have a nice church group that comes through to the garden and hangs out there. I don't go anywhere near it. So if anything's dying out there, it's not my fault. But outside of that, there's so much there.
And you just kind of mentioned kind of a question that I have. So, of the people that want to kind of come and hang out and that type of stuff, and like ways to get involved. So, say somebody is in the Texas area, for example, and they want to get involved, but they're not going to try and go through the program. Do you
Yeah.
guys take on, like volunteers, or is it kind of the church group kind of way? If they wanted to get involved in the organization, is there a way to do that?
Absolutely. So we just hired a brand new community development position. Her name is Reagan Mydill, and I'll also share her contact information. But she's kind of taking on more of that like community liaison. And so the way that we talk about volunteers, um, if you want to mow the grass, paint the hallways, be in the kitchen, be on the admin side, we have an annual gala. So if you like to party plan or things like that, I mean, you can get involved on any level that you want to. We do have educational opportunities. So our counselors, we do have a couple that are certified. So if you are looking to expand those horizons and things like that, like if you're getting a master's degree or different things like that, and you're needing support with that and you need like volunteer hours, we have that. But even down to like our local homeschool group, we have one group that is my absolute favorite because those kids are incredible and they show up and they They volunteer at our gala, they volunteer at different events. There's just a lot of opportunity. It depends on what you want. And that's why I say, like, the number one thing that I love to explain to people is just come walk the hallways. Let let the refuge tell you, if you're undecided. At the end of the day, there's um monetary donations, sponsorships, things like that that are available, but that's always the last thing that we refer. I always refer, come take a tour, visit us online. You can set up a FaceTime, a phone call with us if you're not in the immediate area. We have a Boy Scout group that comes through. All their Eagle Scout projects are done through us and things like that. I mean, we're just here.
I think the volunteerism stuff, if you haven't been involved in a lot of volunteer type stuff, it kind of sounds like a soup kitchen or something. Like when people bring up volunteering, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
going down to the, but man, there's always so many ways that I tell people that they can get involved. And it goes along with what you're just saying, like the donor and the big sponsorship stuff's usually last, but like putting yourself out there to just go do something. And people, and Hodge and I were talking about it, a lot of people just want to fill their cup. Like they
Yeah.
want to go out, help somebody less fortunate, do good stuff in the world. You can do that in your own community. Like you can do that, on a very simple way of going and talking to somebody, spending some time, sharing
Yeah.
life story, whatever the case may be. But you said something else too. When you're talking about the veterans themselves, and they come up on a time and they're like, "Hey, I might not be ready." The statement that I have that I wrote was, with anything like this, I think you have to want it, no matter what you're talking about. Like whether you're going to go
Mhm.
in and say, "Hey, I'm going through hard times." Like one, you have to admit it. Two, you have to want it. So like no matter what you're going through, you have to want to do it. No one can make you do it. Like the guy that called me, I can do whatever I can do on the outside to get somebody to reach out to him to bring him back, because that was an inpatient program he went back to. So, but if he doesn't want to get better, he doesn't want to improve his situation. So on the veteran side, and we're all veterans here, like the world's not going to always come to you. Like a lot of times you have to put yourself out there enough to say, "Hey, I want this. Let's go." Like, that's
Yeah.
my thing all the time in the morning. I'm like, let's go. Like, we're going to do this. Let's go. What's some reasons that some people have thought of that maybe kept them from coming to you guys, that you've kind of heard? You probably hear it in the process of like, man, I wish, like Earl said, I wish I wouldn't have waited so long. What's some reasons that people kind of shy away, do you think?
Oh man. I mean, I think there's a stigma with veterans of, we tend to be a bit stubborn at times.
Mm,
And there's definitely
indeed.
that there. And, what we have found over the years is that we're the helpers. We're the ones that are, we all raised our right hand and swore our lives, right? And I think the biggest piece that I have heard from the men and women who have come through our program is that they were so close to getting it together. I was so close. I was ready. I was trying, like, and then this happened and that happened. And, you know, even personally, like a little bit myself, like I wanted to stay in the reserves as long as I could, and I wasn't able to. And I didn't realize how bitter I was about it. And I had an eye-opening experience at the refuge of like, hey, I'm a little bit bitter too. I'm a little bit angry. I didn't get what I wanted. And so, and I think that's just too often the case is, you know, you'll find yourself so close to being able to figure it out on your own and get where you want to be. And I think that's a lot of the time one of the hangups that veterans get with the families as well. The mom is saying no, like my son was doing well or my daughter was doing well, and we can help them. This is a family thing. Like we can support them. Like we can get this done. Or the wife who's like hanging on by a thread, and you know we're gonna get better, and he's gonna do counseling, or we're gonna do this. And the kids who are just watching the big fights go back and forth and things like that, who are up all night. And I think that's the biggest thing that we've seen a lot of the times is just you get so close. But even when we were thinking of the name, you know, I knew I wanted a place where you could just come and breathe. And that's the biggest thing. Like when you talk about success rates and stuff like that too, like I cannot explain to you what it looks like to watch somebody walk in the building and then months later you can actually see them breathing. And that is probably one of the most rewarding pieces because you can't explain it. They don't know when it happens. It just starts to happen. You just start to breathe. And so being able to have them come into a place where you can just take that rest and take that break and you're not responsible for anything other than yourself. I think that's one of the big hangups too is like you have so many responsibilities and duties and you don't want to let go of those things. And so being able to say, hey, you know what? I can't pour from an empty pitcher. I've got to go in and get some support myself. Like, I think that's one of the bigger hangups too. And you don't want to let anyone down and things like that. And so that's why I do like to focus so much, of course, on our veterans that are with us, but making sure that they're not doing work for no reason. Because if they go right back to the same environment or they go right back into the same marriage or home or whatever, um, we don't want to see them come back because sometimes we have seen the veterans come back because they went right back to where they were. And so you really have to be able to support as much as you can and encompass so many different parts of that veteran and their lives. And so, I mean, that was kind of a big trail around, but yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that I've seen from the inside.
Don't you think it's multi-layered at times too? Like a lot of people think, and I mean specifically veterans, first responders, we think that it just has to be one thing. But man, if I could tell you how many times that I've heard or seen someone walk into somewhere to get help, and it's not just one thing. Anything can snowball into another thing. Your mental health
Yeah.
can be caused. It could be drugged down because of an injury or things like that. So I think the stigma
yeah.
you're talking about too is like the hard headedness of us. The stubborn veteran is also that same person who believes they will not fail, they will win, and that's just kind of ingrained in us throughout the whole thing too. Is like, man, we can't fail. What are we talking about? We quitting? We can't quit. It's unique,
Yeah.
and I can only imagine the pressure you guys are under when you bring someone in. I've at least asked another guest, like, man, you guys under a lot of pressure? And he's like, yeah, dude, we're under pressure. It's a lot. We care. And
Oh, yeah.
obviously all of your staff
So
seems
you
to care
create
too.
diamonds, baby.
I know.
Create
It's
diamonds
crazy.
with pressure, you know?
Oh, yeah. Like the staff that we have is incredible. I mean, and I highlight them constantly because we're a nonprofit. You know, you're never gonna you're never gonna be rich, but your heart's gonna be super full. um, but we have an incredible staff, and even our board of directors. We like to keep it half veteran, half civilian. It kind of helps keeps us a little bit grounded sometimes because otherwise we can get into really difficult decisions. And definitely go into that, you know, just immediate, like a military mindset. And I love that. But everyone that walks through the door, like, I mean, God has them there for a reason. Um, when we were getting started and, you know, there were just 4 of us employees, if I didn't fundraise correctly, we didn't get paid. And to have gone from starting off like that, we were like that for almost the first full year before we were federally funded. To now, you know, at our last board meeting, we had to decide on outsourcing some HR. We needed like a part-time HR person. And growth. I mean, God, you want to talk about challenges. Growth is probably our biggest challenge, but in the best way. Like I pray that every nonprofit has a growth problem because it just means you're expanding. And so I got to sit back and I was like, we need HR? What do you mean? Like, we are HR, like what's happening? And so it's just really exciting to see that we're at that point. Just every person, like I said, we just had our employee Christmas party and seeing the families come out and all of that, because it's an entire thing. You know, our executive director is amazing. You know, he's been with us for almost 4 years now, and he's a pastor on top of that. He does so many things out in the community outside of that. um, you know, and at our gala, you know, I thanked him, of course, but I also thanked his wife and his kids, because we pull a lot from our employees, and sometimes you go home and it's hard to shake off what you've heard that day. It's hard to, you know, to not get emotionally attached to some of these guys, to some of our the women that come through there. And I'm the first one to say it. And I love that I am now on the board side of things, and so I can connect and be friends and all that with some of the veterans that come through there. Um, because there's so much to their stories, and when you just sit down and take a minute, and that's why that's my favorite thing to do. They like to joke, and they call it my Miss America time, because I just walk the hallways and I get to go talk to all of the residents that we have and get to just understand a little piece of them. And I'm just so grateful for everyone that comes through our doors, because they're there for a reason, and they're going to be trying, and you know, whatever side they make it out on, I'm happy that they're there.
I love it. I think of you know, especially you being one of the founders and stuff, is it's so like it's such an entrepreneur spirit to create a, you know, a business or a nonprofit and things like that.
Yeah.
And what I've realized in the especially the past couple years, maybe I've set my ego aside a little bit from my military time and put on my like real talk face. But when you're around people that are entrepreneurs and your nonprofit space and things like that, the ability to just be real and have real conversations with people, especially when they walk in your door, you know, like when everything's not okay and you can walk up to somebody and be like, I know everything's not okay. Like, let's have a real conversation. You know, like this doesn't have to be rainbows and
Yeah.
sunshine. Like I want to know the bad stuff. And I've had a lot of those real conversations in the past few years. And, you know, I think when you're talking about hurdles, the ego and stuff that a lot of people, you know, and it's not them being too proud or like I'm too cool or whatever. It's just I can do it on my own. I can do it, right? Like I don't need, I'll do it myself. And especially when it comes to like finances, addiction, you know, alcohol, things like that. Those real touchy, I don't want anybody to know kind of things. I've had those conversations, and when you tell somebody like when they're, let's just say they were on hard times, and you can be like, you know what, I'm going to do a fundraiser. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to throw out a fundraiser and I'm going to see what I can do. You know, something bad happens to somebody or somebody's house burns down or whatever the case may be, and you can put that together and help somebody. Like if you just ask them, if I could do this for you, would you let me do it? And they'd be like, yeah, I mean, you know, whatever, sure. But they would
Yeah.
say yes. But man, when you see them light up, when some of that weight of the world is taken off their shoulders, I can only imagine what the halls of your building look like. You know, I'm just talking about smaller things, but
Yeah.
man, you guys are lifting the weight of the world off of people in there on a daily basis. So I would love to see it myself. Um, but I do want to know, when is your guys' gala? What month is your guys' gala for your organization? So we can kind of throw
It's
that out there
it's in November.
in November. Um,
Yes, it is the first Friday in November. Excuse me, first Thursday in November.
First Thursday. One of the cool things that I don't think a lot of people think of, and I've been in the flags. I don't know if you've seen my flags and stuff too much yet. It's probably a little bit. We started
At
talking on what
SOD.
TikTok, I think, recently.
Um,
Didn't you message me from TikTok when you were um,
oh,
catching up with some veterans, right?
yeah,
You
so
were adopting veterans.
I got tickets from was it Frontline
Oh
or
yeah, Frontline Heroes,
he,
Heroes Veterans.
yes. Yes.
Yep.
And
Okay.
so connecting with Preston, I mean, like I was said, we were trying to go down the rabbit hole of kind of how we got there.
Yeah.
Um and
See how this all
just the
connects? This is all
networking.
dots that are just.
Yes.
I was telling Hodge how cool this is. Like, people are like, boom, 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 and I'm already thinking in my mind. I have another organization that's starting an entire housing community in northern Michigan for veterans transitioning out of the military, when they're going through stuff, trying to find a home, things like that. And I would love to connect you with them. You've been
Yeah.
around a long time. They're fairly new. They're just getting started, and man, they would. I'm sure they would love to connect and get some of your mentorship and some do's and don'ts too. But the other
Absolutely.
cool thing, the gala thing, that a lot of people don't think of is usually there's like an auction or things that go to, like my flags. I always donate them all the time, but um, there's so many veterans that do. Um, they have some kind of talent. I know more dudes that make knives than anything ever.
Yeah, dude.
Between woodworking and knives, I'm like, dude, some people will hand me stuff and I'll be like, where'd you get this? They're like, oh, I made that. I'm like, what? I'm like, you made
Yeah.
this? Like one dude, I had a conversation with him. I saw his knife and I look at it and I'm like, dude, this is like one of the coolest knives I've ever seen. I'm like, I love this thing. Can I buy one? Where'd you get this? And he's like, oh, I made that. And I was like, dude, I watch Forge and Fire all the time. Like, you got to be on Forge and Fire. And he just like smiled. And I was like, what? And he's like, I already
Yeah.
was. And I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
I was like, you're on Forge. And he told me the episode he was on. But man, there's so many people that once you have a date for your guys' gala and stuff, if you just throw it out on the social medias or throw it to
Yeah.
us, that's one of our plans in the future is to do these check-ins, like what you guys got coming up. I would love to throw it out to the community that we know and be like, hey, if you have things that, you know, as a business owner, you're donating to a nonprofit, but you're also throwing handmade veteran stuff out. Do you guys have programs and stuff at the refuge itself? Kind of like the shop type stuff there too, or no? Is
So
that a
we
thing?
have in the past. So we had is it a CNC machine
Mhm.
that was donated to us. We had a man who ran that program for a little while.
I saw those.
Yes, and so after he passed away, we haven't had anyone else that's been able to teach it. We have our education and employment director is certified to teach the veterans how to do the drones, and they can get the certification. We do like forklift certifications and things like that. We have a garden club as well, so we have the master gardeners that come out and are able to like help if that's a certification that you need. So there's a handful of like internal programs that we have, and we're just constantly trying to build and add more. And like I said, we've had a couple that have come and gone. We had a really great yoga program one time. There was a lady that was coming in, and I tell you what, her class was full every single morning. But as soon as we switched instructors, for some reason, no one was as interested in yoga.
Weird. I wonder why.
I don't know. Yeah, don't know what
Must have
happened.
just been a really easy class. That must have been why.
Yeah.
I might know.
But
I might
no.
have some CNC teachers for you too. I know some guys that run CNC machines that,
Okay, that would
depending
be
on where it is,
awesome.
but yeah. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I love all that stuff. So yeah, anything hands on as far as making stuff and all that stuff, man. I know
yeah.
somebody that knows
Oh
somebody.
yeah,
It's important to
But
get that word out there too, as far as your gala. Like, someone may hear this and they're like, "Man, I just really want to get involved with a nonprofit, or I want to help support veterans." And you just may be the click that day that changes it all, and boom, next thing you know, you get that big donation, or you get that veteran who steps in with that cool knife. And you know, well, based on what Josh is saying, you're either going to get like 12 knives and 3 flags, or, you know, 3 knives and 12. It's going to be a mix of things, but it could help you out a lot. And that's what we want to do, is we want to try to help streamline resources from the outside to get in there. If it's not volunteer hours, if it's things you can auction off, just anything we can do to help you guys out. And that's what is important to us.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I've even mentioned, like, I love what y'all are doing, because it can be heavy trying to navigate through nonprofits. And I mean, of course, the world we're in today, like, you've got to deep dive. You've got to go down the rabbit holes. You've got to kind of, make sure your nonprofit is doing what you say your nonprofit is doing. And so we've seen that a lot with nonprofits that surround us. And so transparency, accountability, all that is always number one. And I love putting that out there. And that's why I love being able to highlight all of our employees are grant funded. Your dollars go directly into the program, directly into the building, different things like that. And I think that's really important, just for a transparency sake. And even the buildings, like opening the second location is covered through grants. That's why we're looking at a third one, just to cover more and more veterans. And one of the big pieces that we're even seeing now is we are seeing a significant number of children of the veterans. So we cover them up to 18. And so that's been exciting. It's difficult to call it that, but it is, they're getting the support that they
A
need.
positive move.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so being able to do that and highlight more of that. And a lot of the times we're finding that that's a stepping stone, because if we can support the veteran without hitting them first, if we can support their spouse, if we can support their child, that's kind of like a nice gateway into saying, we're here if you need something also. And even during the holidays, like we just did our adoptive veteran campaign, and we had 65 veterans that were adopted. We had 18 children of the veterans who are staying with us that were able to get adopted. So they were able to hand their kids Christmas gifts, even though they're not really home with them right now. That was huge. That was significant. But being able to support them in that way was just another brick in the trust that we're building with them, and being able to say, hey, we are truly here for you. We're here to support what you need. And if that includes being able to give your kids a bike on Christmas, then hey, let's do it. Like, we're here for that. And that's where our partnerships come into play, like being able to collaborate instead of compete. I think is so important. We partner with our local Toys for Tots, and I liaison just kind of in between there, saying, hey, we've got this many kids this year. Like, how can we support? Some of our veterans go and volunteer at the Toys for Tot event, so they're able to like build the toys and the bikes and things like that. And so they feel even better about it. It's not just, oh, here's a handout, here's toys. Like, no, we're going to go work, we're going to go do this and support each other. And it's collaboration. So they're able to build the ownership and things like that there. I love doing that. That's one of our favorite things. And the executive director that we have right now, Robert Heckler, is incredible. And we have monthly they're every other month, but we call it our Veteran Alliance. Like, we bring other veteran nonprofits into the play, any other nonprofits who support generally, or just our sponsors of us. They come in and we share resources. Like, what are you guys struggling with? If we have an overabundance of something and y'all are needing something, like, how can we share this? So I loved immediately when I saw the whole mission, the whole purpose behind the podcast, because you need that, and too often it's, these are my dollars, or these are my donors, or whatever. Like, I've seen all that, and I feel like that's why God's let us, hit almost 7 years now, because that's not what we're doing. Like, if you've got something and we can support you, like, let's do it. Let's get it done together. So I'm super happy for you guys. Congratulations, because I know that this is not probably the easiest thing to kind of dive into. So I'm really happy for y'all.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think we're kind of seeing more and more of that. The people that are like, we want to collaborate, and we're glad you guys are doing this. And our big thing is taking the organizations from here, consolidate on a website, so everybody can reference these organizations and just keep up to speed on them. And the people like you that want to highlight themselves, that are rock stars at what they do, they love what they do, they're passionate about what they do. Those are the people, they're going to rise to the top. The people that are doing the wrong thing and not doing what they're supposed to do with their nonprofit, they're just going to go away. They're not going to highlight themselves like you are and be like, look, we want to be here for you. So, I just think it's amazing. I have a couple more notes too. And as far as like your gala, the one thing that I've seen the most in donating the flags and stuff, is when I go to these galas, the coolest part about the gala is, one, you're helping raise money for the organization, but two, a lot of these galas have like 500 to 2,000 people in the room. And if people go there with the right mindset, like, what better place to network and solve all the problems in your own community than a bunch of patriotic, veteran supporting, first responder supporting, like family supporting, community people, community minded business owners, all that. But like, it's not there, like to go there and just have a few drinks and spend some money and buy yourself whatever. I think that's the wrong outlook. And if people went there on the networking aspect, like I go there with 1,000 business cards and I'm like, hey, call me. Like, we want to get you on a podcast. I want to put you on the website. I want to reach out to you later. I have veterans that need to get in touch with you. There's so many things if you choose to speak up and throw yourself out to the world and be like, man, there's a lot we can do if we want to. Between the three of us, we probably have 3 different careers, 3 different things that we're involved with,
Yeah.
and all these different things but it takes people putting themselves out there and speaking up and being like, you know what, I'm going to go do this. And that's the feedback we're getting already in the comments and stuff like that. Like, I didn't know this stuff existed. I'm in Michigan. I'm going to go volunteer and find some organization in my community and do this right now because I think it's
Mhm.
amazing. And they're like, yes, like that was the goal when, Hodge and I were talking about it.
I love that.
And what was the other thing? The other thing was the hurdle way back when we were talking about the hurdles. When you see people light up, and Hodge brought it up on our last episode, um, like people want to help you. Like right now, touching on like the veteran suicide and stuff and all that, but um, there are people like you, Ariel, and your organization. Like the people are out there, no matter whether you're in Maine, whether you're in Washington State, it doesn't matter where you are, how long you've been out of the military. You have resources. So like to suffer in silence and be like, I don't have a solution to this. I'm struggling alone. Like all you have to do is pick up the phone or shoot the email, whatever it is. If you can watch this video, you can get a hold of somebody that can help you, that can talk to you, to do something to point you in the right direction at least. My goal is to try and find as many people as we can, and just let them know that people like you are out there. You know what I mean? And that's the point. So,
Yeah.
but what else? What else you got, Hodge? I love it.
I love me and Josh talked about like, is this work? And when I get to actually talk to the nonprofit, it doesn't feel like work to me. Like all the editing and all the stuff that we do off the camera, that's work. But I just wanted to throw it out there. Like we're just people helping people, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to throw a shout out the video with Earl. Like Earl, man, like thanks for stepping up to the plate and like in the swing and showing people you're setting the example that the veterans need. So if you're out there, I really appreciate what you did because a lot of people are going to have struggles saying that they need that help. So thank you for doing what you did. Pat, I don't know what you're cooking in there, but if you're in need,
yeah,
Pat,
we're
Scott,
gonna need to get some.
we need you to go down there. We need you to get help.
I'm not
we need
small.
you to get you.
I can eat.
We need you to get a belly full of that food that Pat's throwing out of that kitchen because apparently that is the key to the whole refuge down there. Is we just need to get a plate full of what Pat's serving. And then
I
look,
love that.
Ariel, here's the deal. Like we can sit there, we talk about Earl, we can talk about Pat, but I don't ever want anyone to walk away from this podcast thinking that you're also not an example. Letting us peek behind the curtain of what made you so passionate about this nonprofit and telling us your story. That's why I'm in this business, is I want to hear that story, because when this is over, I'm going to go sit down with my wife or my kids and I'm going to tell them like, hey, there's people out there who fight tooth and nail for things. And you're just another example of that. And you are the reason why Warrior Refuge is so successful. I just want you to know that from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate everything you do for the world out there. I thank you for your service, and I thank you for everything that your nonprofit resources for the veterans and the first responders.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Ariel, as we kind of wrap it up, is there anything that you can think of off the top of your head that you would, throw out there to the veteran community or whoever may need to hear it before we get ready to sign off?
There's a saying, it's not so simple. I feel like that's just the biggest lie. It can be. Give where you live, get involved. I came from absolutely nothing. And, there's so much in between being homeless at 14, having absolutely no one, building a family, having my own kids. and going through so much just to get to where I am right now. I mean, like I tell my kids, happy hearts. That's it. You know, you have to let bitterness and anger and resentment, you can't live with it. And so whether you're someone who is needing the services, that's true for you, or if you're someone who wants to give services, that's also true. But there is a way where you can get involved top to bottom. And that's why even when we talk about volunteer opportunities, wherever you want to be, that's where we're going to put you. And so I'm just incredibly grateful for our staff, for our board of directors, especially Miss Pat. I don't know. I think he said something about you need to give me another pecan pie. Just throwing that out there. um, but there's just always a way to get involved. And even if you feel like you don't know what you're doing, that's not really the point. You don't have to be an expert. And so just jump in, just dive in. Like I said, give where you live. That's what I tell people all the time.
Rock star. We love it. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy holiday. We just had Christmas coming up on New Year's, right in the middle of the holiday season. You reached out on social media, exactly what we're trying to do. Like we're trying to get is people like you that want to show what their Rockstar organization does and get it out to the world. I hope everybody does that. And I hope everybody uses you if the time does come or they know somebody that needs, some stuff that the Warriors Refuge can provide and to better their life. And we thank you for everything you do. We absolutely appreciate you and your time and your story and your, staff story, people story. So thank you guys for joining us on episode 3 of the Outreach Project podcast. Looking forward to keeping this rolling, getting into the next episode. So we'll talk to you guys later.
Let's go!